and the room will be taken over. So let's get started. Welcome, welcome. Come on in, take a seat. If you want to be, as you're coming in, by the way, if you want to be on the way out, so this Shabbat Matters series, this is both the opening session for Shabbat I wrote this morning, but it's also the first of a three-part series that I'm going to be doing in the Shabbat Matters series called Making Family Life Sacred. So hopefully, if you come this morning, you'll come back for the next 2 weeks, which we're going to skip Thanksgiving weekend. It'll be December 7th and 14th will be the second two pieces of this class, okay? And the focus on the class, I'm just going to close this door. The focus of the class is called Making Family Life Sacred. We're going to take 3 rites of passage, rituals, times in the day, so to speak. We'll probably need more time for Shabbat than the other 2, so Shabbat probably will be 1.5 sessions, because I don't think we're going to get through it all today. But the 3 things are Shabbat ritual, primarily the Friday night ritual. Secondly will be meal rituals, and third will be bedtime rituals. So 3 things that almost any family, regardless of what age your kids are, these are things that you have happening. You don't have to have little kids to be part of this, because what we do here will be relevant whether you're single, couples without kids, families with young children, or empty nesters. It'll all be relevant. You just need to adapt it accordingly. So I put together a little manual here to go through this. So let's pass these out, and I'll tell you how we're going to do it. Okay? So what I've done here is I've created a little bit of an outline. I know there's many people who have a fair amount of ritual in their home. The sequence is not always the same. There is a prescribed sequence, and I know that there may be some who are here in a Reconstruction spirit who don't even like the word prescribed. But religion is about things being prescribed, and there's a method to the madness. Welcome. Come on in. Honey, please on this side. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. So for those people who have the ritual and maybe are confused about the order, I thought I would create a sequence here. I did notice after I printed this up that I should have had something between 1 and 2. I'll talk more about that in the book. So we're going to go through this, and it's really helpful to have some kind of booklet in your home to kind of help you go through this for your family and for others. We created, in our own home, people who've been on a round table, the Schwartz Family Shabbat Manual, okay? And this is really easy, and there are ways to do it fancier. I mean, that's not my forte. But what you can do is as you find things that are interesting or that you like, you can put them together, get these easy binders, and you can add or subtract to them over time. And I highly recommend you customize your own family manual, and some of the things from this you're welcome to kind of copy and put in, and you'll find other things as well. When we put this together, it was before the internet existed, which sounds like before time, but it was such a day when there was no internet. There's tons of material on the internet that you can enrich your own family manual with. Right now I just want to kind of give you the outline, and what I want to do is we go through this, and the reason it's not going to be chick-chock and will take more than just
you know what, let's put these over here and let people can just grab them.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Put them in the chair.
Anybody else?
What I'd like to do is we go through the outline here. Let me send it back. I want to do some sharing and brainstorming because either the things that you've seen growing up, or you may have seen in other people's homes, or a great idea will occur to you while we're here and say, what about if we did this? So I really want to make this kind of a brainstorming session for how we can enrich our lives. And the whole premise of the three-part series I'm doing here is that family life can be hectic and racing to get to the next event or carpool, whatever else. And what is really hard to create is to create essentially a sense of sacredness in your household where everyone, not just the parents, but also the children especially, have a sense that the home is a place where you feel centered and grounded and loved, and that there's something that families do together. And over time, people who are well-adjusted, if they've got the kind of family background, it really centers them in a way that makes them prepared for all of the curves that life will throw at us, which will happen inevitably. And one of the beautiful things about Judaism, and other religions I would say as well, but the topic here is Judaism, is that it's thought about these things and created customs over time to create that framework. And probably there's no better setting for that than the Friday night ritual. So let's start with number one, tzedakah. It's traditional to kick off your Friday night Shabbat ritual with the giving of tzedakah. Now keep in mind, traditionally, you're not supposed to touch money on Shabbat, right? Which is why it's got to be number one. Because once you light the candles, you shouldn't be touching money. Now, it may be that your family custom, you don't avoid money and or commercial transactions on Shabbat, but it does drive the sequence. It is nice to get in your household. There are now very beautiful tzedakah boxes that are available, that are attractive. You can buy them, or they're wonderful objects. Some of us who are a little bit older may remember they were the blue boxes for J&F, the Jewish National Fund. A lot of people were raised, but how many people were raised with a J&F blue box, okay? So a little bit about the state of Israel is that in the pre-state period of time, one of the ways that the Yishuv, which is the Hebrew word for the settlement, the area in what was then called Palestine, it seems odd to call that now, but pre-state Israel was Palestine. In Hebrew it was the Yishuv. Land was bought over time through something called in Hebrew Keren Kayemet L'Yisrael, which is the Jewish National Fund. And literally Jews all around the world, even if they didn't intend to move to Israel, would give money which would go to the Jewish National Fund to buy land, which later on would become a moshav or a kibbutz and became owned by the Jewish people, eventually to become the state of Israel. So those blue boxes are still around, by the way, but there are other. You don't have to only have tzedakah for J&F. One of the things that I suggest is that one of the ways the Jewish community has been so strong over time is that there is this ethic of giving, okay? And how do we cultivate that? And I really am concerned that the Jewish tradition of being generous and having tzedakah as a core value is being lost over time. I find that a lot of families are uncomfortable talking about money stuff and whatever else, and I really believe that we should be talking a lot more about money. The best possible lesson, if you have children around tzedakah, is to tie the giving of allowance to the giving of tzedakah. So in the minds of children, the two things about acquiring money and getting back money are linked, okay? Because that's the core notion of tzedakah. Tzedakah, the notion is that what we have, we don't own. We are temporary custodians for all that we have. There's the notion that there's a higher owner, which is God or a transcendent power, and this whole notion that, I will say that the two ways we can cultivate a personality in life. You can cultivate personalities that are like this, like the more you take, the more you get, the more you have, and somehow the more you have, the more important you are, okay? And I think there's a certain ethic in American society that breathes that notion of taking, and holding, okay? The Jewish ethic is the opposite. If I can pantomime it, it's instead of this, it's this. It's whatever we get, we need to be getting back in some equal or proportional measure. And that's a powerful lesson which you can talk about. We can go to create a class where we can intellectualize about that and why that's important and why it can create a different kind of society than maybe the society we have in America. But for children, lessons are conveyed through ritual. And sometimes adults are either our lack of knowledge about ritual or our skittishness or awkwardness around ritual keeps us from doing the things that are most instructive for children. Because children learn first by doing. And by the way, there's a classical lesson that goes back to the Bible that says that when the Jewish people came to Mount Sinai, the two words that are uttered, which are classic in the Jewish tradition, is Na'aseh v'nishma, which translates as, we will do and we will listen. From a Western point of view, it's illogical. A Western would say, no, you got that backwards. We'll listen, we'll understand, and then we'll do. But from the beginning of the Torah, the lesson is instead, first do, because when you're pre-rational, you're a young child, you can't rationalize with a child, they just mimic things that they see. So essentially the Jewish people at Sinai were in their infancy. So essentially the lesson is, here are the things you do, and over time you'll better understand what you're doing and why you're doing it, okay? So tzedakah is the best example of that, to get in the sense that as you create the most sacred time in the Jewish calendar, which is every Friday night for Shabbat, you give your child whatever allowance you're going to give them, depending on age. It may start at $1 a week, or it may go up, or however you do that. And then the lesson is, of that, how much will you give back to people who have less than you have, or we have, okay? And that kind of language is understood very well by kids. Now, as kids get older, one of the things I'd like to suggest is that around that tzedakah ritual, that each child comes in with some idea, project, or organization that they're found very compelling. And they say, this week, I want to talk about this organization. So, it could be an organization that's dealing with the environment, or it could be an organization that provides animal rescue, or it could be an organization that provides a homeless shelter for people who don't have a place to live, or a soup kitchen. It doesn't matter. And depending on the age of your children, they can do their research, and they come to the table to share. And by the way, when parents create a setting at the family table where the children are invited to share, they will do their homework even more conscientiously than perhaps what their teachers are telling them in school, because it's their moment to kind of they're the center of attention for the family, and they key the family ritual around tzedakah. So as many children as you might have, each child shares what they're doing, and they give money into the tzedakah box. What we did in our own family is that periodically, and we tried to do it around Hanukkah, but we usually found we needed to do it a second time during the year because our tzedakah boxes got full. But always around Hanukkah time, we would empty the tzedakah boxes and then have a little family conversation about where we want to allocate the money. So we were creating our own little family foundation with the tzedakah money that we were giving all throughout the year. And the kids were excited with how much money had been collected, and also that they had a say in where the money was going to go. And by the way, because it's all usually nickels, dimes, quarters, and some dollar bills, all we do is we would write a check. And I would actually show my kids the checks that we would write. So they understood, well, these coins, we can't mail all these coins. They're very heavy for the mailbox. But, here's a check. And we sent it to these organizations, and they felt they were actually doing that. And that kind of behavior patterns behavior down the line. Yeah.
So I was going to say, apropos of that one idea that we do is that for one night of Hanukkah, the kids do not get a gift.
Mm-hmm.
We double whatever money they've put in their tzedakah box, so that gives them the incentive to put away more. And then we take that amount and we have them choose one or two organizations in advance that they know that they're going to give the money to.
Right.
So it's kind of that idea,
Sure.
we don't, we're not always so great about putting money in on Friday night. Sometimes we forget.
Mm-hmm.
But sort of having that idea of doubling the money is actually
Right.
a huge incentive for them to put the money in.
Yeah, and foundations do it all the time, so the
Right.
matching grants are great.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
but I really want to emphasize the importance of Hanukkah comes around once a year, and it's a great time to do tzedakah lessons around Hanukkah. But I urge you to try and routinize that in a weekly way, because that's how the lesson gets embedded and imprinted in the consciousness of children. Any other ideas about tzedakah? Yeah.
No, I'm just curious, do you have the children give part of the money, that the allowance? You're saying you give them the allowance on Friday?
Yeah.
And they give a portion of their allowance
Yeah,
to the tzedakah?
exactly. Because I want to link income with giving back, and I think that's really important, because otherwise, there was a time. It's hard to do this right because all the kids have their little piggy banks or whatever else. Okay, to give them your money and have them put it in the box doesn't have the same impact as saying, okay, so you're going to get $1, but you've got some coins upstairs, okay? So of your $1, you can decide how much you want to give. And when kids ask the question, well, what's appropriate? That's a good conversation for them to ask that question. According to Jewish law, what's the percentage you're supposed to give?
10%.
10%, okay? It's the maaser idea. And by the way, you still have, in many churches, you have this notion of tithing, which is a strong principle that's discussed. In churches that don't have membership dues, like synagogues do, the weekly tithe is when the basket gets passed around, and the guideline they offer is to say you should think about giving about 10% of your income to the church, okay? That comes straight out of the Bible. And by the way, the Bible also says that there's an upper limit. There's a story about a rabbi who was so generous they would give all his money away and impoverish himself. So the rabbis enacted a rule that you can't give more than 20% of your income away. Now that's different, it's interesting, that's different than wealth. If you have inherited wealth, that doesn't pertain. It's just like regular income, okay? So if you have inherited wealth, you can give whatever you want of that away. But if you're earning whatever it is, $100 a week, you shouldn't be giving more than $20 of that $100 away. So if children want guidelines, there's a reasonable guideline. And these lessons pass themselves out. Yeah?
Are you mean the giving to Hanukkah itself?
No, I think the story is Hanukkah is a time to link getting gifts and giving back. So I think you can perhaps do something around Hanukkah about giving to others, not just expecting to receive. But it's the whole notion of like linking getting and giving. That's the whole point. Any other ideas about tzedakah? Anyone have any customs in their house about giving money, tzedakah practices that we can share?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So the kid is 14.
Yeah.
Then what? Let's
Same
split.
thing.
Well, yeah, can you be, let's say the patterns haven't been so deeply ritualized.
Mm-hmm.
Just say it's more sporadic. There's, time, it's bar mitzvah, there's all sorts of different things, but you've been a slack parent.
Right. So the question is,
And
how do you
14.
How do you introduce this if you have to start when your kids are
Well, I
1, 2,
started,
3?
but
That's a
it's
very good
been,
question.
yeah, let's
Right.
be real. I mean, for myself.
No, it's a fair question. I think it's fair, and probably a lot of people are in that circumstance, okay? And the answer is, I went to this really cool workshop with Rabbi Sid at Adat Shalom, and we were brainstorming with a bunch of families from the community, saying what's a way to kind of make Shabbat more special. And I came up with all these ideas, and have a little family council. When your kids are older, they need to be part of that conversation. And you bring all these ideas, let them buy into stuff. And they may say like, that's silly, I don't want to do that one, but like, take what you can get initially, and then you kind of grow it over time. I think it's hard as your kids get older to impose a whole lot of new stuff right away.
Right.
So say, I came back with 5 really cool ideas, and I'd love to start doing some of them. Let's have a conversation about it and see what can get introduced. And then you get some buy-in on it.
Yeah.
Okay?
Bye.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm coming in late, so I may be totally out of context, but one of the things we did was when our kids gave money at the end of the year, I put their names on the slip. So in other words, we gave to, I believe it was just like Bread for the City, it was one of the local food thing. And by putting their names on the donation slip, that meant that correspondence came to them afterwards. Right. And that was a nice thing for them. They were personally connected to that organization.
Right, nice. And by the way, if your kids choose organizations or charities that have a local base, to do a visit to that place at some point in time. Or for example, if you do like a volunteer day on Christmas, a lot of Jews do volunteering. To choose to do some volunteering at the organization that the kids gave money to is super cool, because then they identify, oh, I gave that money last year to that, and here's the operation, and you're then part of it. So there's both the giving of the money and the doing. And by the way, here too, the linkage in terms of Jewish practice is that supporting through financial means, as well as doing with rolling your sleeves and doing work, are seen as co-equal. They're not mutually exclusive. They should go together, and we put the two things together, all the better. It's one of the reasons, that we've got this, we started after 3 years ago when I went to Haiti, we started a Synagogue Haiti project, okay? And we asked people to commit $100 a year for 5 years to support this school, a Christian school in Leogan that I visited, and that was at the center of the earthquake. Well, a lot of the people who committed that $500 over 5 years then said to me, we'd like to go and do it. Okay, so I said, if you can get a dozen people to go down, I'll go back down with you. And we now have 2 years in a row, we've done service missions to Haiti. So people felt good about being there. It reinforces the fact that they gave money to somebody that they've now seen with their own eyes. They met Pastor Johnny. It just becomes much more real about, seeing the things you're just supporting. Okay? Yeah.
One thing we did for when we gave Tooth Fairy money, instead of giving $1, we actually gave 10 dimes, which she thought was great anyway. She thought it was more, but the encouragement was that one of them went to tzedakah. So we had that built in by giving 10, that there was an expectation that one of the 10 went to tzedakah.
Right.
So that was built in as income for a 4-year-old if they had time.
Right, and the kids love just hearing the sound of coins going into a box. Like it kind of it's like the jingle. It's the same thing, by the way, that they figured out a long time ago, first in Las Vegas, now in Atlantic City. The ka-ching is actually addictive. Okay, that's why you spend all that money at the slot machine and you lose all this money, because there's something about the ka-ching that kind of gets you into a rhythm. Ka-ching, 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 and soon you're out $500. So this is the positive ka-ching, not the negative ka-ching. But tzedakah should be addictive in the best of all ways. Or marriage should say contagious. Any other ideas about tzedakah that you have or want to suggest? Okay, so let's move on. So you do the tzedakah thing. That's first. What comes next, which I didn't put in here, which should have been 1A, is to open Shabbat with some kind of a reading. Okay? So I have a few readings here, and I think what we'll do is share them, because I think just to read them is not the same. We have more of these or not? Do I have? I think we have 30, so just share. Okay. So let's just take a look at a few of these readings. I gave you 3 selections here. Want to read the first one?
We thank you, O God, for family and friends and for what we need and bring to one another. We are grateful for the bond of loyalty and affection which sustain us and which keep us close no matter how far apart we may be. Should we go?
Yep.
We thank you for implanting within us a deep need for each other and for giving us the capacity to love and to care. Help us to be modest in our demands of one another, but generous in our giving to one another. May we never measure how much love or encouragement we offer. May we never count the times we forgive. Rather, may we always be grateful that we have one another and that we are able to express our love in acts of kindness. Keep us gentle in our speech. When we offer words of criticism, may they be chosen with care and spoken softly. May we waste no opportunity to speak words of understanding, of appreciation, of praise. Bless our family and friends with health, happiness, and contentment. Above all, grant them the wisdom to have a joyous and peaceful life in which your spirit will always be present.
All right. So this reading, actually, almost everything else in the booklet I've sourced, and I feel terrible that I don't know where I stole this from. I found it a long time ago, and it's the first page in our family Shabbat manual that we use. And I'll just give you about our own family story on this. When our kids were little, we had the whole reading in the booklet, but we only did the first and last paragraph. It was just too much. Too long, like kids get fishy, whatever else. You want to keep, you want to grow the ritual over time, and you want to make it age appropriate, okay? So in the early years, we did the first and last paragraph. The kids all knew it by heart. As they got older, we added the middle stuff. Now, lo and behold, my kids are now 28, 26, 24. Last year, my youngest daughter, Jennifer, spent a year in India as a fellow with American Jewish World Service, doing volunteer work in a place called Ahmedabad. And saying that I went to visit her in February, and as you can imagine, there's not a lot of Jewish life in Ahmedabad, India, right? But it was a very important part of her upbringing. So we go into her house, and lo and behold, she had made a copy of this, unbeknownst to us, and had posted it in her dining room, so to speak, okay? And on Friday nights, she would light candles and read this, because this is what anchored her to how she was raised and what was important to her when she was in a place in her life and geographically that was so unsettling, unmooring, just different. She needed some things to kind of anchor her to the things that help shape her, okay? So that's the power of creating ritual early on, okay? One of the things that I meant to say earlier on, people have heard of Abraham Joshua Heschel, a great teacher in the 20th century. who has a very interesting passage about ritual. And he says, it's interesting that adults are very reticent to enter into and engage in ritual because it feels contrived or magical, whatever else. And yet he observes that children have no compunction about that whatsoever. And he says that part of what adults need to do is to kind of like get over it, you know? Because the fact of the matter is, if you want to enter into a realm to make your family life more sacred, you need to create these moments where you actually fabricate, in a way, something that feels holy. And all these rituals are about creating that kind of setting. How many of you have ever gone to a Japanese tea ceremony? Okay, so think Japanese tea ceremony. People know what it is, right? The act of drinking a cup of tea requires about 15 to 20 minutes of ritual ahead of time about bowing and getting napkins and folding napkins and putting them down, whatever else. And by the time you get to the tea, that tea is really special, right? Really special. So what's going on there? In every culture, rituals have been created to heighten the appreciation of the moment. And that's what's happening here around all ritual. Here we're talking about Shabbat. Okay? So that's this one reading. There are other readings here. I don't think we have to read all of them. Again, if you're going to put together your own manual, pick one that you like, or go on the internet and find those that you like. The second one is from Mishkan Tefillah, which is the new Reform Movement Siddur, very beautiful. There are two on that page. One is on this Holy Shabbat, and then Let There Be Love and Understanding Among Us. This next one is from Forget the Top Hebrew. I just zeroed it from a book that I had at home. The Gift of Shabbat is from the Conservative Movement's new prayer book. I think it was written by Jules Harlow. And then the next page, just to show how eclectic this little manual is put together, this is from a Jewish renewal prayer book. Do you know what Jewish renewal is? No, but you'd be thrilled to hear that. Jewish renewal was really started by Zalman Schachter, a rabbi who was a Hasidic rabbi, and then kind of actually right now, Cantor Rachel is in the rabbinical program of the Jewish renewal movement. They have a program they call it Aleph, the first Hebrew letter. So she's enrolled in that program, learning in a program to become a rabbi with Aleph. And there's a lot of overlap between the Reconstructionist movement and renewal as well. So Marshall Prager wrote a prayer book, and this is from that prayer book. Okay? So choose what you want. So let's go. So the next step is blessing of the children. Okay. So you see that on the next page. They're not all numbered. So this is, let's go to the page that says bless the children. There happens to be a prayer both for boys and for girls, and we do them separately. And actually, this is actually before the lighting of the candles. Okay. So we're not even up to candle lighting yet. This is all preparatory. So first tzedakah, you create a tzedakah ritual. Then you have a reading to the center people, that you and if you're guests around the table as well, and then the blessing of the children.
Why before? I think many people I know do it after candle lighting, so help me understand the distinction.
It's the way we do it. I mean, it's not the right
the other way.
Yeah.
And most houses I've been to do it the other way, so
yeah.
I'm just confused.
The reason we do it is because after we light candles, we start singing, and then we're like into another space. So it's a more centering time for us, you know, the way we create our ritual, to do it before we light the candles.
By the way, at our house we actually sing this. So, you know, we sing it.
I was going to invite some people with melodies. Could you do it for us?
Oh, sure. Yeah, well, I don't do the intro part. I just sing the
Go ahead.
verses.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yivavrechecha Adonai ve'yishmerecha Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yivunecha Yisa Adonai panav elecha ve'yasem lecha shalom.
Beautiful. Thanks for sharing that. So oftentimes what you do here is, I highly recommend, it's customary to put your hands on your children's head when you do this blessing, and to do each child individually, okay? We've got 2 boys and a girl, so I'll bless my 2 boys, and then my daughter, and then we move into the candle lighting after that. In our house, I usually do this traditional blessing. My wife Sandy oftentimes will offer some words to the kids, not ritually, but something that she wants to say to them at that moment. She also will put her hand on their head and kiss them afterwards. So I'm doing something more ritual. Sandy's doing something more creative, so to speak, based on the moment and what she's thinking. But it creates a very special time, between a parent and a child at that moment when you're about to greet and bring the Shabbat in. Okay, and I, it's funny because over the years I've noticed on the Bima where, from the earliest days of Adat Shalom, we had this ritual of parents coming and giving a blessing to their children for the Bar Bat Mitzvah. They offer the talit. They offer something that hopefully is a family legacy, something that they hope they will keep in mind at that moment. So it's interesting to see the families where there's a natural physical connection, and after they give the talit, there's a hug or a kiss. And in some families where that's not done. And I don't want to judge anyone else, but think about what kind of touching customs are happening in your household, okay? And what the result of that is. In other words, kids really do need to be touched, hugged, loved in that physical way, because again, in the early stage of life, when they're not rationalizing everything, even infants, they relate to being held. There's studies done about kids who are raised in orphanages where they're just simply not being held a lot, and that negatively affects their way that they can adjust to the world and experience giving and receiving love. Okay, so this is a love moment. It should be connected with some physical activity. Okay,
and it doesn't stop the child.
I'm sorry.
All of us want to be hugged.
Right. It doesn't. Right.
Even I.
Especially you, Susanna. Susanna's one of the queen of the huggers. If you haven't been hugged by Susanna, you haven't been hugged. So on the way out, ask Susanna for a hug. She gives them freely because she's great at it. Right, Susanna?
It's called Figmo tactic. Figmo means touch, and all animals need it. All animals, we being one of the animals. And it gives a signal to the part of the brain, the sensory part of the brain. And if it is continued, it's reinforced and becomes part of it. It's very pleasurable. If you, as you said, if you deny touch, and infants that are not touched and grow up in nurseries or grow up where there's no touching, it impacts upon their whole psychological components.
Right. Now again, I'll just relate in one moment, in my own family experience, as our kids got older and moved away, they very much want us to be blessed. It became more challenging. But our custom quickly became that wherever you were in the world, and our kids become kind of world travelers, there's always a time, the question is whose time, theirs or ours, but somewhere between one place in time in the world and the other place in time around party night, there's a phone call or a Skype where we're giving that blessing. It's really important to them. Okay? At our table, at our home, we will always recognize both the children who are there, regardless of age. So now my kids are older, we still bless our kids, even though they're in their 20s. But then we also create a moment where we ask everyone around the table to think about their children who are not present, which is oftentimes the case, and to convey the blessing that way at that moment. So we'll just ask them to kind of think about the children they want to offer a blessing to in that way. Yeah.
Is there any opportunity or any place where spouses bless each other?
We're coming there. Coming to it. Yeah, that's a big part of this. Yeah.
My 5-year-old just screams and runs away when it's time for blessing over the children.
Huh. Because they want to be touched, or what's going on there?
I actually don't know what's going on. Maybe she doesn't want to be the center of attention. Maybe she's hungry, wants to get on with it. I just don't know.
Was it always that way, or
yes, always?
Always. Because we had periods like that.
Yeah. So I'm just. How many children do you have?
Just one.
Just one. So.
5.
So I'm just wondering what would happen if you found a time that was not a center stage in a private place to do that. So it's not like. It's not in a public space. In other words, there could be an awkwardness to kids being centered and identified in that way. So maybe you have a deal saying next week. What's your daughter's name?
Johanna.
So you say, Johanna, why don't we do this blessing moment in your room before we go down light candles?
Okay, I'll try that.
And then that special quiet time with mom, right?
Good idea.
Yeah.
Or you can let her bless you.
Right, yeah, I was about to say, Mike they sometimes want to bless their parents, so you could offer
Yeah, which
That's
is
a good idea too.
You take a turn.
She could offer.
She can bless you first and then you can bless her.
Good.
Yeah, nice. Yeah.
One other thought on that, because I know sometimes if you have a really kinesthetic child, moving while you do it instead of having to be, sometimes quiet is great, but some children can't tolerate being still. Make it you dance around the room and you do it while you move. It might help too.
Nice.
It can also be, I mean, part of the ritual in our house is we bless the children, and our son hides under the table while we do that. But that's like sort of just
Like making a game
like
of it?
Part of it.
That's what he does.
That's what he did. That's what he did.
Do you touch him when he does it, or you
No,
just
no.
No, because he's hiding under the table.
Okay.
But we still bless him.
Yeah.
Okay.
We like touch the table and stuff.
Or get down underneath the table.
There's actually there's a great Hasidic story about this. I don't have it exactly right, but it's about a rabbi. There's a wealthy guy who people want to kind of get to, and the rabbi wants to go see him, but it seems that he's mentally imbalanced in a way. And when anyone comes around, he makes believe he's a rooster, and he just does rooster sounds and goes into a crowd, whatever else. So the rabbi goes there and sees his behavior. So the rabbi mimics the rooster behavior, and he gets down and crouches with the rooster behavior, and under the table he finally connects with the guy. So, if your kid wants to be a rooster or a hamster or a mouse or whatever else, sometimes you got to meet them on that level too. So this is a little bit out of sequence again, because when we put this together I found some really nice things. I want to show you a second piece around the blessing, and maybe we'll sing this if I get some help here. Okay, I'm sorry. So this is a little bit out of order, but towards the back, this is a Shabbat blessing. On the bottom of the page it says a musical version of Blessing Children. On the bottom of the page, this was written by a woman named Hannah Tifer-Siegel, who does a lot of contemporary Jewish liturgy, Hebrew, English alternating. It's a lovely thing. We've done it occasionally at Dashlom at family services. And I'm going to teach it to you right now. Who knows this song? Who can help me with this? Fabulous, okay. You see Shabbat blessing. On top it says, I deserve the song. And at the bottom it says, Shabbat blessing. This is another way of doing the blessing of the children. Now, here again, full disclosure, because I'm using my family as a case study here, for better or for worse. My kids hated it. Like, when I first heard this, I loved it, and you literally cannot get to the song without choking up, still, and I've done it a lot of times. But my kids hated it, and when I introduced it at our family table, they banished it. The dad would not doing that at all, okay? So sometimes you got to go with the flow, so your daughter doesn't want to be blessed that way, my kids don't like the things I like.
Do you think was this after Fiddler on the Roof?
Oh, way after.
With
sure.
your kid's reaction, could it have been, that's so schmaltzy, because this reminded me of that.
Yeah, it is like the Lord's Prayer. May you be like Ruth and like Esther, right? Yeah. Which, by the way, that song is in our Shabbat manuals that I have here. The problem with that song is someone's got to rewrite it so it is made more gender balanced. Because it's a blessing for daughters. It wouldn't be hard to do. I just never taken the time to do it, but so we do that on occasion. But I'm not sure. Maybe this is schmaltzy, but I'm a schmaltzy kind of guy. So let's try this. It goes like this. What's nice about it is that there's actually a dialogue between generations in this song going on. That's what I want to point out to you. So the first paragraph is the sentiment of the adult or parent generation speaking to their children. The second stanza are the children responding. It's a very lovely dialogue. And the third stanza are the words of the traditional Birkat Kohanim, the priestly blessing that you give to your children, in the melody of this song. And the refrain is Shabbat Shalom, which makes it all the more appropriate for Shabbat. So it goes like this. Shabbat Shalom U'mevorach. Shabbat Shalom U'mevorach. Okay, these are going to be the parents, you guys are the children. May you feel the light within you and see it in your friends. May you hear the song of freedom as a song that never ends. May you breathe into each moment and share your love of life. Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. Everyone together. Shabbat Shalom, U'mevorach. Shabbat Shalom, U'mevorach. Okay, kids, here we go. May you trust the voice within me as you watch me spread my wings. May you
listen to my stories and enjoy the little things.
May you take delight in who I am and how I learn from you. Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Umevorah. Shabbat Shalom. Umevorah. So we're going to try this together, okay? Yivarecha Adonai v'yishmerecha Ya'er Adonai panav lecha v'yikunecha Yisa Adonai panav lecha v'yasem lecha Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. 2, 3, 4. Shabbat Shalom. Umevorah. My kids weren't even here. So and when you get to the last stanza, that would be the right time to put your hands on their heads or do a hug or something like that. Okay, it would be very nice. So if you like it, use it, and it's a very simple melody. So I'm keeping my eye on the clock. So let's do. So now we get the lighting of the Shabbat candles in terms of our sequence. We've blessed the children. So that you see the page that says Friday night, it's candle lighting blessing. Okay. So any customs that you all have around candle lighting? Let's just do a little sharing here. Yeah.
We spend light. Every time we light the candles, we say that with those lights, we send light to all of our friends. And people are so if it's the Philippines this week or tomorrow.
Okay, so you're really playing with the light metaphor and giving voice to that in your family, saying, as we light these candles, we'll bring more light into the world. Who needs light this week? Where can we send that light? And here again, you can invite your children to add to, the place that you want to suggest to add light. And the light metaphor is powerful in all Jewish liturgy, but also in other faith traditions as well. Nice. Other customs around lighting candles?
My father went to the Reformed Rabbinical Seminary before World War II. And after the war, he decided that he wasn't going to be a rabbi and he took a different career path. But he still has his prayer book from there in Cincinnati. And Cincinnati, right? And there was a prayer that he said when we were kids, before my mother lit the candles, every single Shabbat. And, it's just in my head, and I have to say it as a link to them.
Yeah.
It's not very Reconstructionist, but it's, come, let us welcome the Sabbath. May its radiance illumine our hearts as we kindle these tapers. Light is the symbol of the divine in man. The spirit of man is the light of the Lord. Light is the symbol of Israel's mission. I, the Lord, have set thee for a covenant of the people to be a light unto the nations. Therefore, in the spirit that hallows and unites Israel in all lands and all ages, do we now kindle the Sabbath lights. Now, when I'm at his house and it's Shabbat and I say that, he wells up with tears.
Yeah.
I still remember that from when I was little.
Yeah, beautiful. Thanks for sharing that. Great. Other rituals around candle lighting that you grew up with or that you use now?
Well, especially uniqueness.
Yeah. Any other customs you want to share? Okay, so you do know that there's a custom of cooked. Usually the person who lights candles, traditionally it's been the woman, but there's no reason a man can't do it as well, that you move your hands 3 times forward, which is essentially welcoming the Sabbath Queen, okay? And you say with that Baruch haba, Baruch haba, Baruch haba, which simply means welcome. Okay, we're welcoming the Sabbath Queen, who is a metaphor of the Sabbath, okay? In a lot of Shabbat songs, you have the Sabbath Queen metaphor, bring in a certain kind of peacefulness. And we actually have in our family manual, there's a song, which I did not put in your manual, but just to tell you about the metaphor here. There's a poem written by Chaim Nachman Bialik, who was the poet laureate of modern Hebrew, who wrote a song called Hakama Me Rosh, which now has a melody. And the last line is goes like this. Draw near, O Queen, and here abide. Draw near, O Sabbath bride. Peace be unto you, O angels of peace. So this whole song from Bialik who wrote in the early 20th century now in a melody, and this is very, very much used in Israel. This is very common at a Shabbat table in Israel to have this song because it's got that modern Hebrew alliteration of using the same metaphor that's been around for centuries, but now in the idiom of modern Hebrew. So it's another way to kind of have that metaphor in. So you do the three Baruch Haba, and then you cover your eyes for the blessing, which is on this page, Hadlakat Nerot here. So if you turn to the next page.
What melody do most people use for candle lighting?
Well, I've heard in a lot of houses people use the Hanukkah melody, which is, I think, a late addition. I think because if people know how to do that blessing, it's not usually associated with the Shabbat blessing, okay? So I never heard it sung. In my house growing up, it was just recited. There was no melody to it. So to the extent you like a melody, the Hanukkah thing is available. There's no reason why not. It's just a late addition, I think. Anyone else have another melody for the candlelight blessing? I haven't heard anything other than the Hanukkah one. Yeah. It's kind of a chant. Go ahead, finish it. Right, so that's a more traditional way than the Hanukkah one, yeah. I don't know where that comes from, but I've heard that a lot too.
I've heard that you're supposed to, well, supposed to is a strong word, but I've heard that there's a tradition to distinguish the trope so that you would have the Hanukkah trope associated with Hanukkah, and that you would know that when it's Hanukkah, we use that trope for lighting candles, but we use that trope
and then like for high holidays.
That's what we do. That's why we do it.
That's why you do it. So that you have that link with your sound and that your senses in a different way to Hagim.
Everyone always went to the classic.
Right.
So if you have to go back to that, you can still do it.
Right.
But thank you.
Okay, so turn to the next page for Shalom Aleichem. After the candle lighting, the song that is used to kind of introduce Shabbat at this point is Shalom Aleichem. One of the things that's really nice is that I gave you this version because this is actually out of the Reconstructionist prayer book. They've written English lines that can be sung to the same melody. So at our table, we'll sing the traditional Shalom Aleichem, but then we'll continue it with English, and I think we'll try it here so you can all learn it, and you please take these with you, okay? The English is on the right-hand side. So the traditional melody, and there are new melodies for Shalom Aleichem as well. We'll do the traditional one because that's what works with the English that they've written. So please join with me. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Kadosh Baruch Hu Bohem Shalom Malachei Hashalom Malachei Elyon Melech Malachei Hamlachim Kadosh Baruch Hu Baruch Hu Nile Shalom Malachei Hashalom Malachei on the right-hand side. Welcome among us, messengers of Shalom, angels of the highest one. From deep within us, majesty of majesties, the blessed Holy One. Come then in Shalom, blessing us with Shalom, leading us with holy Shalom. From deep within us, majesty of majesties, the blessed Holy One. Beautiful. You could be a choir. I see some people actually were recording it on their iPhones, which is a great idea. I should have suggested earlier, but feel free to bring your iPhones for our next 2 weeks. We'll do some other singing. So we're just about out of time. So I'm going to give you a teaser going forward because I'm hoping you're going to come back to our second and third classes on the 7th and 14th of December in the same time slot, okay? I knew we would need 2 weeks to do Shabbat, and then we're going to continue with general meal rituals not related to Shabbat, and then bedtime rituals. The Shabbat rituals, just getting good and hot now, because at this point, after Shalom Aleichem, is when we're in the point of expression of love between spouses, okay? And there's some really cool rituals that I want to talk to you about it. It's all built off the Eish Chayil, which some people love and some people hate, but it has become the
What if you don't have a spouse?
what if you don't have a spouse? Then the spousal love thing doesn't work here?
You put a cardboard thing.
And you can put whoever you want on that cardboard.
Actually, I'd like to talk more about that. Actually, it's a really great question. And because I think a very big barrier for people is when you're single, so much of ritual is a group activity, right? So let's put it on the agenda for next time. I think it's a great thing. But I'll talk a little bit about some rituals between husbands and wives. You also should know, just as a teaser going forward, that in Shabbat it is considered to be a double mitzvah to have sexual relations with your spouse. Okay, in other words, it's always a mitzvah to have sexual relations. There's sometimes you're not allowed to. Most you can. Money back guarantee comes in the back. Too much information. But the whole love thing around Shabbat is actually connected. And, in the same way we talked about, the tactile nature of conveying love to children, also true. So what's expressed verbally in the ritual at this point in the ritual after Shalom Aleichem should be followed up with physical connection in the same way. At a wedding, right? You do the legalistic thing, the ketubah, the ritual, and the rabbi does his or her thing, and then before the Sudat Mitzvah, the couple are supposed to have sexual relations. It's called yichud. There's a time of being alone when, in the old days when there was no sex before marriage, that was the time when you consummated the marriage. But those are connected. So what's said, what's read, and what's done are all connected. So that follows sort of all of it. So we're going to get into the Kama Sutra part of the course, session 2. So that'll bring it back on December 7th. Shabbat Shalom. I'm going to make more copies for next week. So I had 30. So we'll have another 20 or 30. Please, if you're not on the Shabbat Matters sign-up sheet, please sign your name there. And the flyer on all the 3 courses. And thank you very much.
I'm with you. What you said. Yeah. So I'm curious what prayer did your father was doing.